welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to cut through the noise and get you the insights that really matter. Today, we're jumping into something fascinating, a modern rivalry that's literally reshaping the heavens. It's the new space race. But forget the Cold War echoes. This time, the big players we're watching are India and China. Our mission for you today, to unpack who's really leading this charge, what their unique strategies look like, and what this whole high-stakes competition means for space, for science, and maybe most critically, for global security.
Yeah, it's truly striking, isn't it, how much space matters in, 2025. It's shifted so much from just pure science and exploration. Now it's fundamentally a critical domain for power, for data, for defense. Just think about it. Everyday life leans so heavily on satellites. GPS, communication, banking, and nations, they're racing for what people are calling the ultimate high ground, not just for an economic edge, but for strategic superiority. We're even seeing things like anti-satellite weapons being developed. And right now in Asia, it's undeniable. India and China, they are absolutely at the forefront, leading this new space push.
Okay, so let's unpack this. If we want to get a handle on this new dynamic, probably need to start with India. They seem to be, almost rewriting the rules on how you achieve huge space goals without, the massive budgets you might expect. Their agency, ISRO, that's the Indian Space Research Organization, they've really built this reputation. Incredibly cost-effective, but still pulling off these high-impact, really critical missions. You could almost say their model is like low-budget, high-impact innovation born from necessity, maybe.
Exactly. It's a very focused approach.
And think about their recent wins. We all saw Chandrayaan 3. That incredible soft landing near the moon's south pole back in 2023.
Yeah.
It wasn't just sticking a landing. It was about the precision, the autonomous systems. It showed ISRO could handle complex stuff with limited resources. Ingenious, really.
A real demonstration of capability.
Then they followed up with Aditya L1, their solar mission, which is unique, right?
Yeah.
Its placement at the L1 Lagrange point gives it this constant view of the sun. That's a big technical achievement in orbital mechanics.
Definitely non-trivial.
And looking forward, Gaganyaan, India's first human spaceflight mission. That's slated for 2025 or 2026 now. Plus, beyond the government stuff, you've got their commercial side, NSIL, New Space India Limited. They're busy launching satellites for other countries. And there's this whole burgeoning scene of space startups, private companies getting involved, helped along by ISRO.
It really is remarkable what India manages with the resources they have. Their approach is so focused, almost surgical on specific mission goals. But to really grasp the scale and the different ways of thinking here, we absolutely have to turn to China. Their program runs on a completely different philosophy. You're talking huge scale, centralized state control.
Okay, so a big contrast then.
Oh, absolutely. While India is making every rupee count, China is pouring in massive sustained investment. From the military, from the state, their model, you'd call it scale, speed, and state control. They're moving incredibly fast, and they're spending big to do it.
Right. And what does that look like in practice? What have they achieved?
Well, for starters, they have a fully working space station, Tiangong, up there right now, in orbit. And this isn't just symbolic. It means long-term human presence in space. They can do extensive research, test life support for, say, future moon missions. They're building up serious operational experience. It's a huge head start in that area.
A permanent base in orbit.
Exactly. And their lunar missions, the Changi series, they're extensive. They've brought back samples from the moon, and they've got these really ambitious plans out there talking about a moon base by 2030.
In moon base, wow.
Yeah, and they haven't stopped at the moon. They landed a rover on Mars, the Tiangong mission. That showed they've mastered the whole complex entry, descent, and landing EDL sequence, which is critical if you're ever thinking about sending humans to Mars.
Okay, so Moon, Mars space station. What else?
And then there's the military angle. They've tested anti-satellite missiles. That really underscores this comprehensive dual-use strategy for space. It highlights how this domain is increasingly becoming militarized.
So we've looked at their individual playbooks. India's frugal innovation, China's massive state-backed push. This is where it gets really interesting, I think. How do they actually stack up head-to-head on some key areas?
Right, let's put them side by side. It clarifies things. Take moon missions. India's Chandrayaan 3 nailed that historic South Pole landing. Precision on a budget, like you said. China, with the Changi missions, has done more multiple landings, sample returns, and those big plans for a future moon base by 2030.
Yeah.
Much more extensive.
Okay. What about getting humans into space?
Human spaceflight. India's Gaganyaan is coming up, 2025-26, a massive step for them, no doubt. But China, They already have Tiangong. Their crewed space station is active now, giving them continuous experience in orbit.
So China's ahead there in terms of current capability.
Definitely. Now, Mars. India's Mangalayan in 2014 was incredible. Reached Mars first try, showed real ingenuity. But their next mission, it's faced some delays. China's Tianwen-1 successfully landed a rover, demonstrating that complex EDL capability we talked about.
Got it. And commercially.
Commercial space. India has this growing startup ecosystem, right? And NSIL actively launches foreign satellites. They seem to be aiming for a more collaborative global role. China's approach is still mostly state-driven. It seems to be on pretty tight state guidance.
Different models even there. And finally, the military side.
Military space. India's capabilities are there, but limited, though growing. China, they've already shown advanced anti-satellite capabilities. Publicly tested, that suggests a much more robust strategic military presence in space already.
So if you just look at the raw numbers investment, number of missions, current hardware in orbit or on other planets, China seems clearly ahead.
Some pure numbers, yes. Investment, volume of missions, established infrastructure like the space station China leads, it's undeniable. But it's almost like comparing apples and oranges, or maybe, like you said, a custom racer versus a factory line. India builds that finely tuned racer, excelling in cost efficiency. Their operations tend to be more transparent, and they generate significant soft power globally.
Soft power. How so?
Well, by showing advanced capabilities achieved affordably and often collaboratively, they gain international goodwill influence. They make space seem more accessible, perhaps, to other nations. That combination of efficiency, transparency, accessibility, it's definitely catching global attention. China's sheer scale is impressive, but India's approach offers a different kind of attraction.
Okay, so looking forward then, what does this all mean for where they're heading? How do these different styles shape their future paths?
Well, India's strategy seems pretty clear. They're betting big on that public-private partnership model, continuing to grab those international satellite launch contracts, and eventually looking towards bigger things, space tourism, maybe more advanced defense satellites. It feels like a vision for a more collaborative, maybe multipolar future in space.
And China?
China seems to be going full speed ahead. Lunar mining is on their roadmap, Mars colonization is discussed, and clearly establishing military dominance in space is a priority. Their path suggests a more assertive stance, potentially aiming for a kind of exclusive leadership in certain key areas.
You know, it really strikes me that in 2025, it isn't just about who plants the flag first anymore. This race is being defined just as much by how they get there, and maybe even more critically, why they're going.
Precisely.
India's model, rooted in thrift and these open partnerships, it could be seen as a template for other nations, democratizing space access perhaps. China's rapid, state-controlled expansion points towards something else entirely, a more assertive presence, potentially shaping different international norms. It's not just about tech, it's about the whole philosophy of space exploration, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that really brings us to the core question, the one for you, the listener, to think about. Can India, with its ingenuity and cost efficiency, truly catch up to China's sheer scale and investment in space? Or will this race ultimately be decided not just by rockets and satellites up there, but by the strategic choices these nations make down here on Earth, and by the kind of future they actually envision for space itself?